Welcome back to another Bitcoin weekly market update. Today is February 23rd, 2024, and as always, we're going to be jumping in to review everything that's been going on in the market over the past 7 days. It has been pretty choppy up and down, but as always, before we get into today's video, please make sure to drop a thumbs up below if you enjoy the video. It's super helpful for the algorithm. Please make sure you're subscribed. We are dropping multiple videos every single week, sometimes multiple videos every day, to stay on top of everything in the fast-moving crypto space. And make sure to hit the bell notification icon so you can stay up to date when all of those videos drop. So let's jump into today's video because we've got plenty of stuff to cover. But basically what we have is a total market cap slightly up on the week over week. So overall market cap went from about 1.94 trillion last Friday to 1.96 trillion this Friday. We did even breach the $2 trillion mark midweek around the 20th of February. So we did get slightly above the 2 trillion mark before pulling back to 1.96 trillion as of today. Bitcoin itself has been very choppy in the $50,000 to $53,000 range. It has been up and down ever so slightly. With the Fear and Greed Index, we are at a score of 76 for today. I think last week we were at a 72, so we are slightly up on the week in terms of a Fear and Greed Index score, but not too different than this time last week, given the choppiness up and down nature of the market. Taking a look next at some of the biggest gainers and losers over the past 7 days, we have Singularity Net, the AI project, up over 100%. Some other big winners over the past week, we've got Coin, Fetch, Uniswap making big moves today, in particular up over 40%. Only in the past 24 hours, we can see Uniswap is actually up almost 50% in 24 hours alone. But moving back to the 7-day, I think the AI narrative with Singularity and Fetch kind of picking up a little bit of speed there. The graph up 40%, HBAR up 30%, render up 40%. So, a lot of big movers over the past week or so. We hinted at the fact that this might happen. Obviously, last Friday we were speaking about the fact that Bitcoin had breached the $50,000 mark. And I think over the past week or so, we have seen a lot of that filter into Ethereum and some of the alts here that have been performing very, very well over the past 7 days. A large amount of projects in the top 100 up over 15, 20, 40, even over 100%. Some of the top losers from the week, we had Starknet. They went live with their mainnet during the week, and I think they're down about 16% since launch of the mainnet. Helium is down, Ordi is down 13%, Arbitrum down 9%, Sui down 9%, AVAX and Celestia down around 8%, Solana itself down about 7%, Chainlink down 6%. So definitely a bit of a mixed bag in terms of winners and losers over the past week, but safe to say that it has been a very mixed bag of a week, and some tokens doing much better than others. Obviously, with the upcoming Bitcoin halving, we are on the halving countdown, and we are only about 55 days away from the Bitcoin halving, estimated for 19th April 2024. This is a moving target, of course. It will happen at a block height of 840,000. So that estimation is around the 19th of April, which is only 55 days away from today. The Bitcoin dominance is down on the week. So this day last week, we were sitting at a 54% dominance. Bitcoin even got up over the 54% dominance mark, but pulling back to about 52.8% as of today on February 23rd. So Bitcoin dominance is down slightly over the past 7 days, and I think that is somewhat reflected in a lot of this capital flowing into altcoins, and a lot of these altcoins having very good weeks over the past 7 days. Speaking of altcoins, what we're going to take a look at next is the Altseason Index. It is still a Bitcoin heavy month versus altcoins in general, but some of the top 50 performers over the past 30 days when it comes to altcoins, we've got Render up over 100%, we've got Beam up over 80%, we've got, sorry, this is fluctuating between the time frames here, but yeah, we've got Uniswap over 84% up on the month. Some other notable performers here, we've got Immutable at 70%, Filecoin up 66%, VeChain up 64%, HBAR up over 50%, and then Bitcoin itself up just under 30% over the past month. So having a very good February so far. Some of the worst performers, we've got Monero down 20%, mainly due to the fact that they have been delisted by a number of exchanges. We've got Maker and Quant down 5% and 2% respectively. And then the majority of the other altcoins in the top 50 have been in the green over the past 30 days. So definitely a lot of growth has been seen in the market over that period. Next up, we've got the different narratives. So of course, we've got other videos on the channel to do with the different narratives in the crypto space. You can check those out. But the whole idea here is that each of these narratives will have different peaks and troughs throughout the course of the bull cycle. Every narrative will have its own season within the bull cycle. So it's worth keeping an eye on the different narratives that your assets that you're holding are a part of, to understand where they will peak in the cycle as compared to Bitcoin, and thinking about your scaling in and scaling out strategies depending on which narratives are performing or outperforming Bitcoin at specific times. So month to date narrative performance, we've got the identity narrative performing very well over the past month or so. Then we've got AI picking up steam, as we saw with Singularity Net and Fetch being some of the big performers over the past week or so. That makes a lot of sense. Then we've got decentralized physical infrastructure. We dropped another video on the channel recently about this, so be sure to check it out. Liquid staking derivatives, the Bitcoin narrative itself, decentralized science, DEXs, DeFi, all some of the top performers when it comes to the top narratives so far month to date. So once again, make sure to keep an eye on which narratives are performing, and do your research in terms of where those narratives will peak in the bull cycle compared to Bitcoin. Obviously, the ETFs continue to accumulate more and more Bitcoin, and really leads us to conclude a lot of positive sentiment around the growth of Bitcoin over the next 12 to 24 months if we see the ETFs continue to accumulate at the pace that they are accumulating. Obviously excluding Grayscale, because a lot of outflow happening with Grayscale because of their higher fees at the moment, and a lot of the Grayscale Bitcoin being picked up by the other ETFs. But aside from Grayscale, we've seen BlackRock leading as the main ETF contender here with 124,000 Bitcoin accumulated since it began trading about 5 to 6 weeks ago. Fidelity in second place, having accumulated over 88,000 Bitcoin. Then we've got kind of Bitwise and ARK in the mid-range with about 22,000 and 30,000 Bitcoin respectively. And then on the lower end of things, we've got Invesco, VanEck, Valkyrie, Franklin Templeton, and WisdomTree, all with between 600 and 6,000 Bitcoin in their portfolios, having accumulated that over the past 5 to 6 weeks. So what does that show us in terms of Bitcoin accumulation? Well, this graph represents all of the accumulation for the ETFs, excluding Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. But you can see that we have hit over 281,000 Bitcoin having been accumulated by all of the 9 new ETFs since their inception 5 to 6 weeks ago. Again, that is in about 28 days of trading. So still on course for, maybe it's about 30 days of trading, but just under 10,000 Bitcoin being accumulated every single trading day With the ETFs, we obviously don't have the data for today just yet. This is a day or two behind. So we are probably on course for about 10,000 Bitcoin still being accumulated every single day. With the upcoming Bitcoin halving in April of this year, the daily Bitcoin issuance supply is going to get cut to around about 300 Bitcoin per day. So the amount of Bitcoin that is being accumulated by the ETFs at 10,000 per day far outstrips the supply coming into the market. So a price squeeze upwards is the only natural way that price can move if accumulation keeps happening at the same rates. So we've said this many times in many videos, but if that is not crystal clear, then I don't know what is. So total net ETF inflows, as we can see outlined on the map here, is continuing to grow at a steady pace, and we're only going to see that continue to increase. Targets of over $50 billion worth of inflow into the Bitcoin ETFs with the 9 new ETFs was the target from many analysts before the launch of the ETFs or in the week of the launches. And it looks like we are on pace to see definitely 50 billion, if not a lot more by the end of 2024 in terms of inflows for the new Bitcoin ETFs. Moving on to the cycle low multiples. So what we're seeing here is each of the previous 3 Bitcoin cycles in the lead up to and aftermath of the Bitcoin halving. So the day zero here in the middle of this chart represents the halving date, and the different color lines for era 1, era 2, and era 3 here in blue, green, and orange represent Bitcoin's performance in the lead up to and aftermath of the previous Bitcoin cycles. And the red line on the left here represents where we are in the current era, in era 4, as we approach the next Bitcoin halving in April of 2024. And the interesting thing to note here again is how much Bitcoin grew in the 12 to 18 months after each of the 3 previous cycles. We did see diminishing returns from era 1 versus era 2 versus era 3. So interesting to see if diminishing returns will continue. But I think what the trend clearly shows is significant amounts of growth in the 12 to 18 months after the halving cycle, each time Bitcoin putting in new all-time highs in that period. And if history is to rhyme, then I think we will be in for a lot of growth with regards to the Bitcoin price and putting in new all-time highs shortly after this next halving event. So lots of growth happening in the market, lots of exciting news, lots of bullish sentiment. Overall market cap continuing to grow and up slightly on the week. But even when we zoom out, we can clearly see that, even since Q3 of 2023 and into Q1 of 2024, we have seen some very big growth here over the past few months, and we are in for a lot of interesting growth and sentiment over the next 12 to 18 months as we approach the next Bitcoin halving. So very exciting times to be keeping on top of the market, very exciting times to be keeping on top of your investments. As always, if you enjoy these videos, please make sure to drop a thumbs up below. We're dropping multiple videos every single week, so hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon to get notified when all of those videos drop, and stay on top of your crypto goals. And as always, we'll catch you in the next one.